One of the benefits of being in the pastoral counseling department at Loyola is the ability to attend the mid-year conference, and you've been fundamental in having that be a major part of research presentations. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the things that once I started, well, I've always felt that spirituality is an important part of who we are. Being able to show that scientifically, very exciting kind of thing. To me, it was like, wow, this is a whole new undiscovered country here that needs to be brought out and made evident to both the popular but also professional world as well. How do we do that? Well, I mean, I discovered about APA's Division 36, at that time it was the psychology of religion, where people are interested in obviously integrating psychology and theology in important ways. That area, well, that's a whole nother interview we can talk about, just about Division 36. But essentially, it's got a lot of the major people who do research in this area are members of that organization. And being part of that is certainly an important thing professionally if this is the area you wish to work in. But when you go to APA, Division 36 is one of about 50 different divisions that are there. And, the amount of time there is in the convention devoted to presentation of material from Division 36 is very limited. They may have like 20 hours of time over 4 days that they would use to present things. And it's like, that's not a lot of time. And the question, where else can you go to do this? Well, I mean, there's other organizations and counseling and sociology where religion is also important, but they're counseling and they're sociology and they're not psychology. And they're different places with different focuses. A lot of times the work that they're doing is much more clinically oriented rather than basic research-oriented kinds of approaches. And there seemed to be a very limited venue for getting this kind of data up and out. The people doing work in this area are few, and I wondered if one of the reasons why it's so few, because there's so few outlets for the material. If I write a paper and I want to get it published and there's no journals to publish it in, why am I writing a paper on this topic? It doesn't do anything for me. So I said, it'd be a nice idea to start developing another platform where people can come, talk about research, present research, hear about research, and spend it about just on research in the psychology of religion and spirituality. So we started this whole notion of what started out to be the round table on religious research. And the first year we did this, I think it was back in 1995 when I first got to Loyola in a full-time tenure track capacity, that we put together so let's get some people together and let's talk about research. At this time in 95, some of my ideas about how to proceed next were still being formed and were germinating. There's some general principles that I had about the Big Five, et cetera, as a framework, but how to move that forward, what are things to look for, talking about spirituality, et cetera, how to move a research, what kind of research agenda should we have, was the idea. And our goal was to get some students, faculty at the department, and other interested professionals that we knew, other faculty knew, to come and talk about this whole topic. Very open-ended, very unfocused, but it was a round table. And literally when we had the first conference, it was indeed that we were in a large classroom sitting around a round table. And there was about, I would say, maybe about 20, no more than 25 people at this table, probably less. I remember it was interesting, but Robert McCrae came. I invited him, and he came just to check it out. He's a very open guy, very introverted and high on openness. And that's what we did. We spent a couple of hours. It was like maybe 2.5, 3 hours. We spent the morning talking about that, getting people's perceptions and thoughts, and how can we get a research agenda going and moving along, and what are some of the things we'd want to consider and how to build that. And it was an interesting experience. The next year we did it again, and I think we started inviting somebody to come to talk. That we found somebody, here's somebody doing something, let's bring him in. Also, it was more like a good colloquium rather than a research conference, that would have a speaker come, or we'd have a couple of people give a talk the next year on the research that they were doing. And it was basically a 9 to 12 and a 9 to 1 kind of thing that went, the latter part of the 1990s. And we were getting to the point around 99, 2000, where this is getting, we're doing this event, and we're getting about 120 people showing up for this morning thing. We'll have like 5 or 6 presenters on the docket who just get up and give the little talks, and people would listen to it, and it was getting big. And the question is, where do we want to go to from here with this? And the idea was suggested, well, maybe we can do something with APA Division 36. APA Division 36 didn't have its own conference. A lot of divisions do. They'll have something mid-season, usually in January or something, where they'd have their group just meeting to present. The Division 36 didn't, and so the idea is, would they be interested in something like this, putting on a conference? Clearly, we have about 120 people coming to our little 3/4 of a day seminar. What if we made this a 2-day event? What if we put things out? And reluctantly, APA said yes. So I think about 2001, or 2, we got together to do our first
It
event.
must have been 2002, because this was the 10th year anniversary
Yeah,
this
so
year.
2003 then. So it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it was about 2003
Okay.
was our first conference, where we call it the mid-year, well, actually, what do we call it? The winter
Midwinter,
conference?
maybe?
Midwinter conference, right, on religion and spirituality, where we had put out as a regular event, a 2-day event, and it was pretty well received. We lost money, but it was a start. Loyola was very generous in contributing money, and so did Division 36. And even though we lost some money, we did it again the next year. And within like 4 years, we started to make a small profit off of this, which was good. And attendance started getting up in there. We had over 200 people showing up, and it's over the last 10 years has really morphed into being a really important conference for people. It's an important conference, especially for psychologists, because it's 2 full days that's devoted entirely to research in this area. So what that does, it creates a space in the field that needs to be filled. And once people start seeing, hey, there's a conference on spirituality, let me go and check it out. And people will come, they check it out. It's a very positive experience, a nice place to be. They say, well, let me present something here, or let me do research in this area, or let me encourage students. So next thing you know, with this space, it begins to be filled up by professional activity, and that's been a good thing.